Las Vegas uses more electricity to pump its own drinking water than most small countries make in a year. At the same time, the dam that is supposed to power the city is running at half strength because the lake behind it is 2/3 empty. And data centers just asked for 3 times more power than the entire city currently uses. None of that is a guess. That is Southern Nevada right now in 2026. And the grid holding all of it together already cracked once. On August 18th, 2021, NV Energy, the company owned by Berkshire Hathaway that serves roughly 90% of Nevada's power customers, moved through all 3 levels of the Energy Emergency Alert System during a brutal western heat wave, hitting level 3 by 3:30 in the afternoon. That is the worst warning a power grid can issue. It does not mean blackouts are a risk. It means they are about to happen. The company had used up every bit of power it could buy ahead of time, burned through every backup, and was racing to buy power on the spot market, while begging customers across the entire Las Vegas Valley to cut their usage. That was not a one-time event. The year before, California's rolling blackouts during the August 2020 Western Heat Dome had spilled right into Nevada, causing major power cuts across the state. Then, in September 2022, another heat wave pushed the grid past what it was ever built to handle. Parts of the Southern Nevada system went up decades ago, and those older parts were never built for the kind of long, extreme demand the area now faces every summer. The grid held each time, barely, and after each close call, the demand numbers only got worse. Then came summer 2024, and it broke every record Las Vegas had ever set. On July 7th, 2024, the weather sensor at Harry Reid International Airport hit 120 degrees Fahrenheit. That smashed the old all-time record of 117 degrees, which had stood for 82 years since 1942. Las Vegas then went through 7 straight days at or above 115 degrees, doubling the old streak record of 4. The whole summer averaged 96.2 degrees, breaking the prior record by 2.5 degrees. Over the full season, Las Vegas logged 112 days above 100 degrees and 36 days above 110. By every measure, it was the worst heat wave on record in Las Vegas since tracking began in 1937. The human toll was huge. Clark County recorded over 400 heat-related losses in 2024, a 60% jump from 296 the year before, and more than double the 2017 to 2023 yearly average of 187. Over 3,500 heat-related emergency room visits were logged. And while hundreds of people were losing their lives to the heat, 32,000 Nevada homes had their power cut off by NV Energy for not paying their bills that same year. NV Energy only blocks shutoffs when the forecast calls for above 105 degrees. Once your power is cut, the company does not have to turn it back on, no matter how hot it gets. In a city where the inside of a home without air conditioning can reach life-threatening heat within hours, that rule is not just about money. It is about staying alive. Now, pay attention to this next detail, because it explains everything about why Las Vegas's grid is in the spot it is in. Each degree above 100 degrees Fahrenheit adds roughly 75 to 100 megawatts of demand to the NV energy system. Summer peak demand runs about 85% higher than winter, which means the grid has to serve what feels like 2 different cities depending on the season. Air conditioning alone makes up 60 to 70% of total home power use during peak hours. Monthly home power use jumps from about 1,000 kilowatt hours in winter to between 2,000 and 3,500 kilowatt hours in peak summer. Some homes see their power bill triple. So the heat is not just a comfort problem, it is a physics problem, and it hits both sides at the same time. On the demand side, every degree drives up use across 1 million homes at once. On the supply side, extreme heat wears down the very system that delivers the power. Power line capacity drops 15 to 20% in extreme heat because the wires stretch and sag closer to the ground, cutting their safe limits. Solar panels lose 10 to 15% of their output above 100 degrees because the science behind turning sunlight into power works worse at higher heat. Transformers wear out faster, equipment breaking down on hot days, especially when air conditioning spikes across the grid, is one of the top causes of outages in southern Nevada. The shape of the city makes this worse. The urban heat island effect in Las Vegas is among the worst in the country. Heat mapping of the valley has shown that East Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, and downtown run up to 11 degrees hotter than the areas around them. Nearly 50% of the Las Vegas metro area is covered by surfaces that soak up heat, more than any other major American city that has been checked. All that concrete, asphalt, and dark roofing soaks up heat during the day and pushes it back out at night, stopping the city from cooling down even after the sun sets. Average summer temps in Las Vegas have risen 5.8 degrees since the 1970s, making it one of the 2 fastest warming cities in the country next to Reno. Current climate models say that by 2080, Las Vegas could see over 100 days above 100 degrees as a normal thing. That would make 2024's record-breaking summer the new normal, not the exception. Now, stack the city's money-making machine on top of that heat, and the picture gets a lot more tangled. The Las Vegas Strip uses roughly 7 billion kilowatt-hours of power every year. That is about 20% of the whole city's power use, packed into less than 1% of its land. The combined power bill for Strip casinos and resorts runs about $1 billion a year. That much demand crammed into such a small space is wild. There may be no other district like it in any American city outside of Lower Manhattan. And here is the detail that changed Nevada's entire power landscape. Between 2016 and 2018, MGM Resorts, Wynn Resorts, and Caesars Entertainment all left NV Energy's service. Nevada law lets big customers leave the utility if they pay an exit fee, and these 3 paid a combined total of over $150 million to do just that. MGM went further and built a 100-megawatt solar farm on 640 acres of desert outside Las Vegas, now powering roughly 90% of its 13 Strip properties during the day. Wynn ended up paying less for power after leaving than it would have if it stayed. Those moves stripped NV Energy of roughly 7% of its sales and created a 2-tier power system on the Strip. The biggest casino chains buy power at cheaper rates on the open market. Meanwhile, NV Energy's remaining 1 million Southern Nevada home and small business customers pay the full cost of keeping, fixing, and upgrading the grid that those same casinos still lean on for backup. For those customers, 2025 brought one piece of bad news after another. NV Energy asked for a $224 million yearly rate hike, roughly 9%, which would have raised a typical home bill by $33 to $43 a month. State regulators approved about $148 million in yearly increases, along with a new daily demand charge. This charge tracks each customer's highest 15-minute power use during the day and raises the rate based on that spike, making Nevada one of the first states where the only power company charges homes based on peak use. Regulators also approved billing customers for building costs on a major power line project before it is even done, adding about $4.35 per month to Southern Nevada bills. On top of that, a probe found that NV Energy had overcharged roughly 80,000 customers by $65.4 million from 2002 to 2024 by wrongly labeling apartment buildings as single-family homes. The company's CEO was gone within a week of the scandal going public in May 2025. But this was not just about the Strip or rate hikes anymore. Something much bigger was building, and it was about to make every other strain on the grid look small. The single biggest threat to NV Energy's power planning right now is data centers. And the scale of what has been asked for is almost hard to wrap your head around. 12 proposed data center projects in NV Energy's latest plan would add 25,590 gigawatt hours of demand by 2033. That is equal to 56% of Nevada's entire 2024 power output, sucked up by just 12 buildings. 39 large projects have together asked for roughly 7,600 megawatts of new power, with most of it packed into northern Nevada's Tahoe-Reno Industrial Center and the Apex Industrial Park, northeast of Las Vegas. Nobody in the power industry can think of a time when this much load has been asked for this fast. The sites already running give you a sense of the scale. Switch runs the biggest data center campus in southern Nevada, over 2 million square feet, pulling up to 495 megawatts, fed by 1 gigawatt of solar it built itself. Google's Henderson site used 352 million gallons of water for cooling in 2024 alone. NV Energy has promised Switch, Nava, and other operators up to 4,000 megawatts for AI data centers through its Greenlink Powerline project. And the company now needs 47% more energy than it planned for just 2 years ago. Once all the data centers are fully built out, yearly power costs in Nevada are expected to top $2.8 billion. With cooling water needs of 9,650 acre-feet per year in a desert that is already running dry. And while data centers are asking for power equal to 3 full Las Vegas grids, The city keeps piling on demand from every other direction. Clark County's population hit about 2.4 million in 2024, growing at 1.7 to 2.1% per year, and is set to cross 3 million by 2045. The Fontainebleau Las Vegas opened in December 2023 as a $3.7 billion, 67-story mega resort. A $1.75 billion Oakland A's baseball stadium broke ground in April 2025 on the old Tropicana site. The LVXP project, a 27-acre, multi-billion-dollar complex with an 18,000-seat arena and a 752-foot tower, was approved in December 2024 with a 2029 target opening. And then there is the Sphere. The MSG Sphere pulls a peak of 28 megawatts at full power, enough to run roughly 21,000 homes. Its outer shell is the world's biggest LED screen at 580,000 square feet, holding 1.2 million light pucks that can show 256 million colors at over 4,000 nits of brightness. Ads on the outside cost $450,000 a day. The venue uses about 96,000 megawatt hours a year, racking up an estimated $5.6 million yearly power bill. Plans call for 70% of its power to come from a dedicated solar project by 2027, but its total use still wipes out the energy savings of roughly 48,000 homes. That kind of number makes accountants cry. But the Sphere is a drop in the bucket next to what comes next. This is where the geography of Las Vegas forces a talk that most coverage of this crisis dodges entirely. Las Vegas exists because of Hoover Dam and the Colorado River, and both of them are failing. Lake Mead, the lake behind Hoover Dam and the source of 90% of Las Vegas's drinking water, fell to an all-time low of 1,040 feet on July 28, 2022. That was roughly 25% full after a 160-foot drop from 2,000 levels. Heavy rainstorms in 2023 and tough water-saving deals across the Colorado River Basin raised levels by about 30 feet. But as of April 2026, the lake sits at roughly 1,060 feet, about 33% full, and it has dropped 6 feet since March 2026 alone. Federal forecasts warn that Lake Mead could hit a new record low of about 1,032 feet by November 2027. As Colorado's snowpack fell to just 29% of normal in 2026. What this means for power is severe. Hoover Dam was built to produce 2,080 megawatts at full strength, but that number has been slashed to roughly 1,320 megawatts, a 36% cut. The reason is simple science. Lower water levels mean less water pressure, which means less force spinning the turbines. Yearly power output has roughly been cut in half from the long-term average of 4,000 gigawatt hours. Current output sits far below what the dam was ever built to produce. Nevada gets 23.37% of Hoover's power under federal sharing rules, and when Hoover comes up short, the gap has to be filled by buying power from natural gas plants at a higher cost and with more carbon. If you are following the geography of this, you can already see the trap forming. And it is one of the most dangerous cycles in the entire American energy system. The Southern Nevada Water Authority used 853.8 million kilowatt hours in a single year, pumping water nearly 2,000 feet uphill from Lake Mead to the Las Vegas Valley. That is a massive, fixed power load that cannot be cut without shutting off the water to 2.4 million people. Over $1.5 billion has gone into systems built to keep pulling water even as the lake drops. That includes intake number 3, a 3-mile tunnel drilled under Lake Mead at 860-foot depth, and a low lake level pumping station turned on in April 2022. But pumping from deeper intakes takes more power, a lot more. So as Lake Mead drops, two things happen at the same time. Hoover Dam makes less power because there is less water pressure to spin the turbines. And the Water Authority needs more power because it has to pump water from deeper down. Less power made, more power used. That is a vicious cycle, and it speeds up with every foot Lake Mead loses. Some people hear all of this and ask the clear question: how does Las Vegas stack up against other cities that have already had grid crises? And could this turn into another Texas? The February 2021 Texas grid crisis left 4.5 million customers without power, took the lives of at least 246 people, and caused damage valued between $80 and $195 billion. It is still America's worst grid failure, but the reason it happened Texas cutting itself off from the national grid on purpose to dodge federal rules does not apply here. NV Energy runs inside the Western Power Network, giving it access to power imports from nearby states and a spot in the Western Energy Imbalance Market, which has saved $8.24 billion total since 2014. NV Energy was also cleared in April 2026 to join the extended day-ahead market in fall 2028, expected to save $93.1 million a year. California's August 2020 rolling blackouts, which cut power to 800,000 homes, showed a problem called the duck curve, where solar power drops at sunset right when demand peaks. NV Energy faces this exact same problem and is adding over a gigawatt of battery storage to cover the evening gap. The good news from California is that the fix came fast. By 2022, the state's grid handler managed 51 gigawatts of demand without blackouts after quickly buying up battery storage and demand response tools. But the city, most like Las Vegas, is Phoenix. And the numbers from Phoenix should keep every grid planner in southern Nevada up at night. Phoenix power companies have set new peak demand records 3 years in a row. Arizona Public Service hit 8,631 megawatts in July 2025 during 118-degree heat. A major 2023 study modeled a 5-day heat wave and 2-day blackout hitting Phoenix at the same time. The results showed 12,800 lives lost and 789,600 people needing emergency care. That many patients would overwhelm the city's 3,000 emergency room beds almost right away. A blackout and heat wave hitting at the same time may be the single greatest health threat facing the United States. Those numbers carry over straight to Las Vegas. Same extreme heat. A single main power company, instead of Arizona's more spread out setup. No nuclear power like Phoenix has from the Palo Verde plant, which is the biggest nuclear plant in the country. And Las Vegas already hit its worst grid alert 5 years ago under milder conditions than the city now faces every summer. If you are finding this kind of deep breakdown useful, hit subscribe. We cover stories like this every week. While all of this pressure has been building from every side, NV Energy has been working on what it hopes is the answer. The Greenlink power line project is the main piece. It is made up of two 525 kilovolt high-voltage lines, forming a north-south spine across Nevada, each able to carry up to 4,000 megawatts. Greenlink West is a 350-mile line running from Clark County to Lyon County. It is being built right now, with 180-foot steel towers going up along US 95 through the Nevada desert. Its Walker River station will be the largest in NV Energy history, stretching over 360 acres and holding two transformers that weigh 343,000 pounds each. The target finish date is May 2027. Greenlink North, a 235-mile partner line from Elko County, has run into strong pushback from wildlife groups over sage-grouse habitat and has been pushed back to at least December 2028 after those groups won a challenge against the federal review. The combined cost of both lines has blown up from an estimated $2.5 billion in 2021 to $4.2 billion today, and customers are already paying for building costs before either line sends a single bit of power. Beyond Greenlink, 3 big solar plus battery projects have been approved, adding up to over 1,000 megawatts of solar and 1,000 megawatts of battery storage, plus 400 megawatts of natural gas backup plants that can later run on hydrogen at a cost of $573 million. NV Energy's Next Energy Plan, which was filed a full year early because power needs have grown so fast the normal planning cycle could not keep up, is expected to call for 4,000 megawatts of new clean energy, 4,200 megawatts of battery storage, and a lot more natural gas. But even with all of that spending lined up, the math may not work out. And this is where federal policy crashes into desert reality. Nevada voters passed a law saying 50% of the state's power must come from clean sources by 2030. That target is now likely to be missed for the first time, because data center demand is growing so fast that it needs new fossil fuel plants just to keep up. Federal taxes on imported steel and solar parts have delayed or put at risk several approved solar projects, including the 128-megawatt Boulder Solar 3 and the 700-megawatt Libra solar site. The Trump administration froze large-scale solar building on federal land entirely, and solar building on federal land in Nevada has basically stopped as a result. Lawsuits have targeted Greenlink West's building path, and Greenlink North's final federal approval has been set for May 15, 2026, 2 weeks from now. The tension is clear. Nevada is building more gas plants at the exact moment the state is supposed to be moving away from fossil fuels. Federal safety reviews have found that the risk of power shortfalls in the western grid shows up after 2026, with over 5 hours flagged in 2028, where high demand and low supply could not be fixed by bringing in power from nearby states. Power shortages are expected to hold back 40% of AI data centers by 2027. The 2027 to 2028 window is the key turning point for Southern Nevada. That is when Greenlink West is supposed to go live. That is when major solar battery projects are set to start sending power. That is when NV Energy joins the extended day-ahead market, giving it deeper access to wholesale power across the West. If those build timelines hold and federal approval roadblocks clear, Southern Nevada may just squeeze through. The grid may hold. If they slip, and another summer like 2024 shows up while Greenlink is still being built and solar projects sit frozen on federal land, and Lake Mead drops another 28 feet to a new all-time low, then the nightmare modeled for Phoenix becomes a real chance in Las Vegas. A heatwave and grid failure hitting at the same time. In a desert city where losing air conditioning does not mean being uncomfortable. It means a disaster that kills thousands. As of April 2026, Lake Mead keeps dropping. Data center power requests keep climbing. Greenlink North's approval is 2 weeks away, and the next summer has not started yet. This story is not over, not even close.